So I'm very pleased to introduce Guy Poskitt.
Thank you. Does this click? Which way does this go? Yeah. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for inviting me to such a beautiful part of the world on such a beautiful day. Now, I think today is about selling more produce, so I just need to tell you a little bit of story about selling. A local business to ours, small garage, really wasn't doing very well. Supermarket opened next door, sales were terrible. So he put a sign up by his garage. He put free sex with every tank of petrol. Anyway, local farmer saw this. Following Saturday morning, the van was empty. Down to the garage he goes, fills it up, goes to the counter, £70, sir, please. He says, what about the free sex? He said, can you choose a lucky number? He said, 3. He said, I'm sorry, today's number is 4. You've not won today. Oh, so following week, same thing happens. Van's empty, down to the garage, clean boiler suit on, fills the van up, goes to pay £55. So he says, what about the free sex? He said, can you choose a lucky number? He said, 4. He says, I'm sorry, today's number's 8. You haven't won. I think, oh, God. Following week, last time, he thinks I'll have one more go. Goes again, fills the van up, pays £82. So he says, what about the free sex? He said, choose a number. He said, 3. He said, I'm sorry, the lucky number's 4. He said, just hang on a minute. I said, I've been coming all these weeks. He says, it's a con, this. Does anybody ever win? He says, of course. He says, your wife's won twice. Anyway, on to the day's business. I'll see if I can get this clicker working. So, we're going the wrong way. That's right. So who am I? A little bit about who I am, first of all. I'm the National Chair for Horticulture for Potatoes. I was lucky enough to win I'm a retail analyst. I'm a company director. Looking the right way now. I won the Farmers Weekly Farmer of the Year in 2012, which I was very, very proud to win for me and my workforce. I'm an HCV driver. I'm an expert in renewable energy, having now built a biomass plant. I'm an unqualified accountant, a husband and a father, logistics organiser, agronomist, grain trader, industry representative, horse rider, but above all, I'm a farmer. And I think that's what today is about farmers. Quick introduction about my business. It was founded over 40 years ago. I'm the MD. We employ about 280 people. We grow and pack and distribute from one site. We supply customers for further processing and farm about 6,000 acres, growing combinables, vegetables and potatoes. That's partly owned, contract farm, share farm, and various other arrangements. So why am I involved with NFU? Well, a lot of people ask that question because it is a very time-consuming job, but simply the best way to predict the future is to create it. Don't complain about the future if you're not there driving it. And that's why I'm involved, and I spend an awful lot of time lobbying. And we also work really hard with the AHDB, and I think since Sir Peter's come to the AHDB from the NFU as well, I think there's an opportunity to share our benefits of both organisations. We are a lobbying organisation, and we certainly don't feel that we're vying for position. We more or less want to use both of our resource for the benefit of the industry. A few of the NFU successes. The introduction of GSCOP and the adjudicator. Obviously, the adjudicator's come a long way, and you've seen in the press last week or the week before, after the AGM, the successes, and also that there are still a lot of people out there not behaving themselves. Christine probably doesn't like me saying this, but she is the Rottweiler in the farmyard. She is making sure us as farmers or packers are all protected. Unfortunately, I think with the retailers, it is the minority spoiling it for the majority, because the majority of the things I hear these days are the right decisions about retailers. You've got to remember that the adjudicator is not a price fixer. The adjudicator is just there to make sure we get a fair and transparent process. One of my challenges I've been given with the NFU is to report to government about how we want to see the adjudicator rolled out further. This is quite a difficult message because we want reduced red tape and we want increased adjudicator. And to actually give all farmers the access to adjudicator will be very, very difficult. So I welcome any feedback from anybody about how we can get the adjudicator more involved in businesses without becoming a complex situation. I have a suggestion that maybe we should reduce the turnover before somebody becomes responsible, and that would maybe pick up 1 or 2 larger companies. Dummy pill is something that's in brassicas, which is a little bit hard for. Dummy pill is basically a pill that a seed that you plant that's dormant, and you put a pesticide on that, and it grows outside of a normal brassica plant. And we've worked hard to keep that. Crop diversification with CAP, and I had to go to DEFRA and explain to DEFRA that a cabbage and a cauliflower were different things, and that was quite difficult in itself, but we managed to get the crop diversification for the 3-crop rule, particularly in this part of the world where it's intensive farming. On contract support, we've created a document to help farmers understand potato contracts and to help them do a better job. Red Tractor audit, we've also supplied a pack for doing red tractor audits to help farmers, again worth about £500 as part of our service. We've also got the National Pollinator Strategy and homegrown provenance for ornamentals, and of course Catalyst for Change. Now Catalyst for Change, I don't know if anybody's seen this, I'm sure a lot of people have, but it's a document that was put out 3 years ago. So the NFU and Horticulture Board launched a Catalyst initiative which focused on tracking poor supply chain practice. So this was a document that we put out as a bit of a blueprint really to what a good job looks like and how we would like to see the future for our industry in terms of longevity of supply and all the things which I'm probably going to talk about later. Closer collaboration. And we've taken this to lots of retailers, and I think we've gone a long way. And on the back of this, there's a lot of the GSCOP work has been put around this, and also we're now working on phase 2 of Catalyst for Change. So instead of complaining, which we've got NFU are sometimes a bit guilty of, we're going to demonstrate what a good job looks like. So we're really encouraging retailers to demonstrate that they are doing a good job, and we'll actually use that in our publicity with government and in other publications. So I've just really talked about what is Catalyst and what are the objectives. Is it delivering? Well, I think it is delivering, because I'm seeing more longevity in the supply chain. We just need to, there's other things that we need to discuss, which is value and price, and I'm going to come on to that in a minute. Now then, we had this interesting, this slide, because the technical problem we've had this morning has meant that I've had to go back to the old slides, and so we managed to get this one back on the screen. But race to the bottom. Well, price pressure to the bottom, and that's where we are with a lot of products. But is that really the future? The real game is to learn how to grow more for less. It's not about growing the same for less, because if we grow the same for less, we're never going to get better at what we do. And that's why, somehow we've got to erode this race to the bottom and learn. If we want to do these cheap prices, we need to learn as an industry how we can do it better. And I think that's what things like today are about, investing and learning about technology, because I'm convinced we could do it better, but we need the facilities, not just in the fields, but in the factories, in technology. And value, what is value? Is it cheap? Is it quality? Is it taste? Is it home life? Is it healthy? There's more things to value than cheap. If you buy something cheap and you take it home and it doesn't work, or it doesn't last, or it goes moldy, it wasn't great value. So I think we need, as an industry as well, to demonstrate about what is value. And what is growth? Well, I'm going to have to read the notes a bit, which I don't like really reading notes. But for many of us, it is about creating growth in volume. But the most obvious way of doing it is to increase consumption. We need to also look at again, about the value piece. And growth can also mean our self-sufficiency. Again, this is not an easy task where it continue to fall from many crops. In potatoes, there are many opportunities to work better with processes to ensure we're not only producing the best potatoes we can in the UK, but processing a supply chain which remains competitive to the European rivals. And I think there's a little bit on that today. Healthy. Well, it's a real, I think in the potato industry, it's a real mixed challenge, is this, and it's a challenge I've been given as chairman of the Hort Board, because we've got a growth strategy. So how do we convince people that potatoes are healthy? How do we promote the nutritional benefits, and is there a real market growth opportunity? How do we do that without some bad press? Because obviously some snack foods don't always get the best of press, but they use a lot of our products. Now the next slide I'm not convinced is going to work. It might do. No, I'm afraid we've got no sound because of the technical hitch. But those of you who remember this was what was healthy years ago when they did mash gets smash. Those of you who are a bit older in this room remember, and it says we grow potatoes, we peel them, and then we smash them up. What a primitive race we are. Well, I guess that was marketing. But was that healthy? Or is this healthy? Or is this healthy? Or is this? Or is this? So those are all challenges that we've got to decide how we manage this health piece, because we're all aware that there's a lot of benefits in potatoes, but sometimes how we market them doesn't always give us the best advantage. So, how about our growth plan? With the NFU, since then we've developed, after Catalyst for Change, we're looking at now we've done this growth plan, right? And like Catalyst for Change, it's focused on poor behaviour this time round, we'll be focusing on best practice. We believe that this will enable us to have more constructive discussions with major customers on good supply chains. We've already initial discussions with the Potato Processors Association, and we'll be exploring ideas of how to support the potato sector through our promotion to consumers and lobbying of government. At this end of the review, we'll be producing the best practice guide and encouraging all parts of the supply chain that are delivering. Earlier mentioned that they announced the intentions to create the group with the NFU. This was Tesco at the NFU AGM in 2014. Tesco announced the intentions for a supply chain link up with the retailers. Obviously, there's been a lot of uncertainty in Tesco's, but I think they're now looking closely at a closer linked supply chain, probably based on cost of production and profit on top, because I think growers just want to be able to do a good job. They want to be able to deliver value, but they've got to deliver profit, because without delivering profit back to the business, fundamentally, they're not going to do this bit what I'm really, really keen on, and that's producing more for less profitably, and that's what we need to do. So, what are we doing in our growth plan? We're responding to changing customer behaviour. So, healthy, 5 a day. On average, consumers are eating less than 3 portions of fruit and veg a day, although we recognise the 5 a day. We want to know why healthy eating campaigns are no longer working. How can we influence them to be more clear, consistent and effective? And this is an initiative that we want to work with the AHDB. We've been in discussions with the British Growers Association, HGC and Potato Council to see what we may be able to do together, and we'll be talking to government, NHS, and influential nutritionists and other major players in the healthy eating market. It's not an easy task, but it's something that we need to, if we need to sell more produce or more potatoes, we need to get people to understand. We need to educate people from an early age, and we need to educate them that our food is good for you, provenance, and ultimately try and drive the sales. Labour. We need good access to labour. As you know, in our industry, all our industries in horticulture use a lot of Eastern European labour. I'm really, really worried about the referendum. What will that mean for us? Because I personally have a greater challenge, or as great a challenge, having a reduction of access to labour as I do having a reduction to water or pesticides. Because every business I visited in this role who has a large workforce has a huge amount of migrant labour. So we're going to work really, really hard with government about making sure if there's a referendum that we have that. I have lots of MPs come to my farm, and some of them really just don't get it. They don't get it that there aren't the people out there to do the jobs. We as a business have a lot of good workers, but we don't have enough of them, local workers. So we've also, SAWS probably doesn't affect this part of the world very much, but as you know, the SAWS scheme has been done away with, which is a licensing scheme to bring immigrant labour in to pick soft fruit, particularly for seasonal work. We've lobbied hard to try and keep that. At the moment, it's on the back burner, but again, it is something that we're making sure that we keep it on the back burner, because I think time will come when there isn't the access. Forget the EU referendum. Suppose that currency changed back again. Suppose we get a growing economy in Europe, in the east, not the Far East, and we see, we're not seeing, I don't know about your businesses, but we're not seeing the same consistency of Eastern European labour that we were doing. We're also obviously working hard on pesticides, evidence-based policy. That's something that it's just common sense, ladies and gentlemen. It's common sense that the neonics is a great example, where there's no real clear evidence to say that neonics are damaging the bees, but yet we're all getting huge losses in rape crops and this sort of stuff because we're based on European policy. Water. Oh, hang on, one more, sorry. Sorry, I've gone too far back. Long-term, oh dear, I've got it the wrong way around, sorry about that. Long-term supply chain relationships. I've talked a little bit about that in Catalyst, but you can't explain how important it is to get a long-term relationship. You look at this business here today and look at the investment. This investment here at QV is not based on one-stop shop. It's based on years and years of getting it right, and that's getting it right really for customers to make sure that we get the value piece. And I can't urge how important it is to retailers about long-term relationships, because farmers are great spenders. You all know that. We all love buying machines, and we all love investing in our businesses. One thing farmers don't do is hoard money. So actually, if we could get longer-term relationships, we would then get more investment in the industry, and then we could maybe compete better against some of the countries that are coming cheaper than us. There must be a reason why they're doing that. So, we're really, really urging retailers not to look at 1 year, but 2, 3, 4 years. I was speaking to a producer of meat for a big retailer, and they were on a 5-year rolling contract, renewable 2 years in advance. That's where us as growers want to be, because if you go out and buy a new Grimmy potato harvester or whatever for 150,000 quid, and you put a cold store up, etc., etc., we want that. We want that longevity. It's not about rape and pillage. It's just about a professional approach to growing a business forward. Water. As you know, it's funny, we should come here today, and I had a really interesting visit around this farm because, of course, water here is a real challenge. Although they're on fantastic land, salt is a problem and things like that. But the access to water is massive. I was at Cereals last couple of weeks ago, and George Eustace was speaking about this 25-year growth plan and 25-year food plan that governments have got. How can you have a 25-year food plan with a 3-year water strategy? There'll be farmers in this room today who have irrigation licenses that they might not have in 3 years' time. How can a government give a long-term strategy with such short-term benefits? So we're really pushing government hard on water. Obviously, there's going to be the Water Framework Directive, and we need to match the water to the growth. We need to make sure the plan is flexible. We're also lobbying hard on tax allowances and water storage because, as I've said before, we're great spenders, farmers, and if we could get more tax allowance, we would do more water storage. And we also want good access to funding. There's all this Pillar 2 money. How about some of this money coming to help us do things better? So there's quite a lot in this slide, but we looked at sustainable abstraction. What the Water Framework Directive is saying is we're all going to have to use less water. But we need to be looked at on our individual merits, because obviously some years we use more than others. Some farmers, I look after protected crops. In the greenhouse, you use the same amount of water every year. So if we had a cutback of, say, 20% in water, probably most of us would survive if you had an averaging position. But if you're in a glass house, that wouldn't be ideal. So I think, we need to work hard with government. We are working hard with government. EA, as you know, are quite slow with these processes. And that's why they're renewing these short-term licenses. But really, they've got to get off the fence and get on with it. I'm a little bit upset about the new government because, although I was a great supporter of them, I just feel at the moment, on lots of issues, they're sitting on the fence, on water, on TB, on Europe, but lots of things. It's time, if they want to do things that are not popular, now's the time to do them, because in 5 years' time they'll be forgotten. Obviously, they're talking of trickle irrigation being licensed next year, but how many years have you stood here and heard that message? We would want, on abstraction reform, we'd want fairness, we'd want prioritisation of allocation, transfer of existing rights. At home on the farm, I've done some water trading, and it worked quite well. But we need to ensure that that's done properly and fairly without huge amounts of kickback to the EA. And we need to look at water scarcity and drought, and of course water storage. So what could the new system bring? We could all lose in areas of low water, removal of licensed volume, but you can't do that overnight. We've got a situation which we've lobbied very, very hard for at Catfield Fen down in the road from here. And as you know, because of changes, a farmer could possibly no longer be able to grow the crops he's been growing for years and years and years. And also, we want to look at a long-term averaging. Nobody knows what this summer's going to bring, but If it kicks in like this for 2 months, we could have a summer of drought. So we need to look at a long-term average. And I really don't believe that we're that short of water. You know, if you look how much agriculture uses, it's tiny. And we need the ability to be able to appeal to protect our members. This is my wishes, but if there's any press here, this is not the NFU's wishes, this is my wishes of EU reform. As you know, we're going to have a reform in the EU next year or in 17. What's it going to bring for agriculture? Well, I'd like to see the approval of GM. I really believe that GM has a long-term future in our industry. You know, if you stop somebody in the street and ask them if they wanted to eat GM, they'd probably say no. But then if you ask them, do you realise the potatoes you've just had for your lunch have been sprayed with blight 9, 10, 11 times? Do they understand that? You know, I think we need to rebrand GM, you know, and take away this Frankenstein food. I've been to South America looking at GM, and I was very, very impressed. I don't think I'll see GM potatoes in a commercial state in my lifetime, but if we want to feed more people, we've got 3 choices. You know, we've got to use more pesticide on more GM. There's a massive pressure on pesticides. I don't need to tell you that. So I think that we've got to look at trying to develop GM in the future. We want an agricultural vision concerned on food production first and environmental second. We all love the environment, but we've got to remember that dikes was put in the land so man could drain it and farm it. And there's a little bit of a common sense approach here, because with a growing population, it's so important that we lobby hard to make sure there's some common sense. Hogan, who's a commissioner at the moment, I'm quite impressed with, really, because he does speak a good story. But of course, the NGOs and all the rest of it, they're very hard at lobbying against a lot of the environmental things. CAP principles, working for larger farming operations. One crop rule. If you're an intensive farmer, you know, growing brassicas, to maximise the profit for your business, is the one crop rule the right thing to do for your business? Is it giving you profitability and maximising your business? Absolutely not. And I think we need to lobby that quite hard, because let's face it, in this country we've still got huge diversification in crops. When you drive around the countryside, I think this rule has been made up by bureaucrats travelling on a train to Brussels, seeing acres and acres of maize. But you're never going to see that in this country, because there's so many different farmers doing so many different things. So I'd like to see that go. Not gold plate every EU rule. It's as if they make them up and we follow. And I think we need to just be a little bit more canny on that. A level playing field on pesticides across Europe and the USA. Is it fair? I don't like fair, because it's not the word I like. But is it fair that we should be challenged by pesticides and then be allowed to import from countries that haven't got the same challenges and compete against us? Absolutely not. So we want a level playing field where we're all playing on the same playing field. I personally feel about CAP. I would be quite happy to farm without CAP support, providing the whole of Europe was farming without it, because I would like to do without the interference, but I can't at the moment, because I can't compete against other countries that haven't got the support. And we always need an access to a good source of labour for seasonal work. And finally, I'll need to look at my notes for this one, because it's quite technical. And finally, what have we done? Round up other key issues. Eptrix. In the summer this year, the Plant Health and Seeds Inspector have intercepted 4 consignments of potatoes from Spain with evidence on Eptrix damage, 3 of which were washed on washed potatoes, and 1 of which was from high-risk unwashed potatoes. In all cases, no live larvae were found, but it's highlighted the risks for the imported potatoes. In response, the UK Plant Health Service will intensify its monitoring of potatoes from Spain. In addition, given that washing seems to be the most efficient means of removing it or killing any Eptrix which might be present, we are recommending that, as far as possible, only washed potatoes are imported from Spain. Needless to say, a clear message from this is to ensure vigilance, and to this end, DEFRA has produced a pest alert fact sheet, which you'll find on the NFU website. CIPC compliant. Now, this is interesting, which I'm sure a lot of people don't know, but recent change in the Red Tractor standards, which has made it a requirement for cereal producers, do so at risk on stores under CIP contamination. So in other words, if you tip your corn in your potato store, there could be some CIPC contamination in your cereals. and you might end up, not being able to market those crops. So, it's a bit of a wake-up call for growers, and I'm sure a lot of growers tip corn in potato stores. I know I do when we're busy, and we've got to be. It's a really important. We realise we cannot be complacent with CIPC. Exceedances in potatoes and contamination cereals will only add to the pressure that this chemical is already under. If we want to keep this product, and we must adhere to the best practice for potatoes, please follow the guidance of the CIP stewardship scheme. NFU potato reform. As you know, we've got a potato forum, NFU potato forum. We have a potato forum which members are welcome to feed back into, and then that feeds into Potato Council, or AHD Potatoes, Fiona, as it's now called. We welcome feedback from members on challenges. The thing I don't get in my job is enough challenges. I've been to see lots of farmers talking about potatoes. I've talked to them about Potato Council and what they want, and I get very, very mixed messages. So really, if you want it changing, please say something. Please use the NFU, and please come through us, because we have got a real strong lobbying arm, and we have got a really good relationship with government. We're going to pressurise government now to deliver what they put in their manifesto on lots of issues in agriculture. And now's the time, really, for farmers to feedback that to us. Thank you.